welcome to Thirst Impressions. I'm Belinda.
I'm Spencer.
And I am Will.
And I'm Kevin, and today we're talking about gin and genitals.
So we are drinking a gin and tonic, and I'm going to show you guys the way I make a gin and tonic, which may not be the correct way, but it is a good way. And
Is there a wrong way to make a gin and tonic, though?
I mean, it's called a gin and tonic, so I assume you just mix gin and tonic, honestly.
My guess is that neither of us or none of us will make the same gin and tonic today. So yeah,
probably not.
It's versatile, right?
Yeah, unfuckable, right?
Unfuckable.
I would like.
I like that.
But we'll see how you guys think of mine. So this is the very first like mixed drink I've ever made because it's so fucking simple. So like literally, I've been making this for years, and this is how I make it. Okay. So what is you get a good glass. So this is a pretty large glass, so it's meant to fuck you up. And what I do is I fill it with ice, like all the way with ice, and then I just pour the gin until it's about halfway.
Ooh, wow. That's a capital
nice.
G gin and tonic.
This is a will and tonic.
And then you get the tonic. Let me open this bad boy up.
No, Thirst Impression condones safe drinking practices.
That's
Measure
right.
your drinks.
And I got diet tonic water. So it doesn't really matter which one you get. And then you just fill it up with the rest of the tonic. And then I like to just throw like 2 little lime wedges in here.
To squeeze or not to squeeze? Do you squeeze them or you just?
I just throw them in there.
Nice.
And you just mix it up, and that's how I make my gin and tonic.
I love that.
Limes are the most beautiful of the citrus fruits too. So yeah.
You know, I'm more of a lemon as far as citrus goes in my gin and tonic. So I made one here, and I used a dry gin. It's cheap. It's a Monopoloa. I don't even know how to say it, but Monopoloa dry gin. And I wanted to try something a little different. I've made many gins and tonics before, like Will, very experienced here. It's such a simple, easy cocktail. I think if you're curious about gin, it's a great introduction, I think. But I added some peppercorns to mine. Also used a diet tonic water. We should totally get sponsored, by the way. But I'm using a Schweppes diet tonic water. Not all tonic water is created equally. I've found
that is 100% true.
I have found so of the diet or light tonic waters, I do like Schweppes. It tends to hold its effervescence well over time. It doesn't get flat. You know, if you like, I've bought tonic water like Target brand or Walmart, things like that. But they do go flat pretty easily, and I don't like that. True. I like a good, crisp gin and tonic. So I added some peppercorns, grilled some lemon, and sliced it up, and that's what's in mine.
Awesome. What about you, Belinda?
So, you know, I think I've mentioned before in here that I don't drink carbonation. I had carbonation night before last, and it almost destroyed me. I was so sick. So I was at Harmon's. Harmon's is our fancy local grocery store. And they had this tonic syrup, Bar Daddy. So I picked this up. It was pretty expensive, $22 for the bottle. But I was, you know, looking at the ingredients, it looked all really great. And so I made a couple of gin sours for Kevin and I last night. And they were tart. So I tasted the syrup this morning. Rookie mistake. It's not really a syrup. It's more of a mix. It's already got the citrus in it. So I was doubling up on the citrus. So I bought this. I put a little bit of it in mine, but I also was looking for this. Do you guys know what this is?
What is that?
What is that?
Sugar?
No, it's like a piece of bark.
Oh, the cinchona bark or
yeah, cinchona bark. So I
What
found
is
that at
cinchona
a
bark?
Latin market here in Salt Lake. And
What
So
is
I
cinchona bark?
oh, we're gonna talk about that. For
Okay,
sure.
okay.
So I picked up some of that, and I kind of hurried and made a little. It's not infused enough, so I left the bark in the syrup. But I hibiscus and Meyer lemon and cinchona syrup, which I'm going to use
Wow.
as in a sign Meyer lemon gin sour sort of thing. So that's how I'm making mine today.
Man,
Nice.
You guys are so fancy.
So what kind of?
I just throw this shit together.
It's all good, Will. I think the proportion makes a difference. You know, you a little bit heavier on the gin side gives a different flavor,
Well,
different experience, but it's all good.
That's the beautiful thing about a gin and tonic. You find the tonic water that you like, you find the gin that you like, and it's a perfect go-to thing that can be as simple as pour a couple things in a glass with ice, squeeze a little lemon or lime on top, and you're great.
Exactly.
I opted for the fancy as well today, just because often when I drink gin and tonic, it's just straight up gin and diet tonic water. I prefer the Schweppes diet tonic water. And today I'm actually using Bombay dry gin. It's an inexpensive and perfectly palatable London dry gin. Today, this time of year, right there, the blood oranges are in season. So I made it is Valentine's Day. We'll note that.
Happy
Even though it's a
Valentine's Day.
Stupid fucking holiday
Stupid day.
on so many levels. But I went ahead and went with the red drink in honor of that motherfucker Saint Valentine. Yeah. So cheers, everyone, to gin and tonics.
Gin and tonic.
Oh, that's fucking good.
It is.
So Spencer, you said you had read something about the history of the gin and tonic.
Yeah, I didn't really know what tonic water is or what the difference was between tonic water and club soda or anything like that when I started drinking. So did a little research and discovered that tonic water was at least historically used because of its medicinal properties. So tonic water contains something called, I don't know how to pronounce this, so forgive me if I'm butchering it, quinine.
Yeah.
It's a chemical that was thought to help with malaria, so an anti-malarial drug. And historically, looks like my camera might shut off. Yep, there we go.
Oh, whoops.
We
Historically,
hear you. We hear you.
it's okay, I'm still here. Historically, the tonic water was used for treating the anti-malarial. It was kind of bitter, and so what they did is they added gin and botanicals, and they added tonic, they added that stuff to it to make it more palatable. So that's kind of where it comes from. So once it was recognized that the tonic wasn't, it's not like a practical anti-malarial, then it became kind of a beverage that was just enjoyed, and so they made the tonic water a bit sweeter and more palatable.
Huh.
Nice.
Man, I miss the how doctors used to treat things. They were
Cocaine.
oh, you're feeling a little bit of pain, here's some cocaine.
That's right. Opium. All
Yeah.
those fun things.
You have malaria. Oh, just drink some gin, you'll be fine.
Right.
Have some cocaine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the story of tonic or tonic water, but cinchona itself is fascinating, right? It was originally from South America. It's from Colombia, and they kind of had a monopoly for hundreds of years when it was found out that it could treat malaria. And it was like the drug cartel in South America right now is, right? Like machine guns. I mean, it wasn't machine guns because they didn't have those back then, but they would literally fight to the death for this cinchona bark. Colombia and these South American countries didn't want to give up their hold on this very valuable product.
Sure.
So back in the 1800s, all these European countries started sending spies to South America to get cinchona saplings, steel bark, and seeds and things like that to try and grow their own. And they would kill them, right? So cinchona trees grow cliffside. So they grow in crags on these cliffs, and that's how they naturally grow. They don't grow on flat land. So, harvesting cinchona bark is hazardous. So, these people would die to get this stuff. Well, in the 1800s, nothing was harvested ethically, right? It was just they would eat, take it till it was gone, right? Well, it almost went extinct because they would strip the bark off these trees and then not replant, not like do it in a way that meant it was going to grow back, because these trees grow super slow. So, long story short, no, actually it's going to keep going, because the Dutch sent some dude there. He got trees and stuff, and they sent all these trees to Java and planted cinchona forests essentially so that they could treat malaria. Well, in the 40s, guess who invaded the Netherlands? The Nazis, right? So the Nazis had complete control over the entire world supply of cinchona bark and the malaria drug.
Wow.
Yeah. And so tons of people were like struggling, and the United States, they were trying to come up with a synthesized version of it, but it was like, it was the 40s, for hell's sakes, right? Like everything was taking a long time.
They were more interested in making the nukes at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. But actually more Allied forces died from malaria in the Southeast Pacific during World War II than died from like military action.
Wow.
It was bad, bad, bad. So the US was like, we got to get some spies in. We got to like figure this out. They pull some botanist from Spokane, okay? Bring him to Washington, D.C., sit him down. They're like, we need your help. You got to save the army, right? You got to save the whole like United States military force. So they send this dude covertly down to Colombia to talk to like old timers that still knew where you could find the cinchona trees. And he goes out and he starts harvesting this by himself covertly, knowing he could be killed at any moment by somebody who doesn't want him to find out, right? So he gets all the stuff. They clear land, have planes coming in to I think total, it was like over 12 million tons of cinchona bark he was able to harvest for the military. But cinchona bark, it's a jungle tree, right? In Central America. So it's very wet. So it wasn't really a lot.
Gotcha. It was just heavy.
It wasn't enough. It was very heavy. And the process to dry it and everything took so long, they just didn't have the time. They needed some other way. So this dude is in like this creepy tumble down hotel in Colombia. And he's an American guy. He hears these muffled voices downstairs from him in the hotel in his room. And he hears them speaking German. And he's like, okay, I'm in big trouble. There's Nazis here, Germans here. They're gonna kill me for what I know and what I have, right? For tree bark. Then he's sitting there and he hears a bang on his door, and these two Nazi spies come to him and they're like, so we have some black market cinchona we want to sell to the United States. And so the US bought cinchona bark from the Nazis on the black market at an astronomical price, and it saved all these people in the army. So, or
Do you
not
sell
army,
your
just the army.
cinchona for money?
Right? No, but if you go to an Latin market anywhere, not anywhere because I went to two, and the one that I went to here in South Salt Lake, they kind of have stuff from all over Central America and South America. 99 cents. They call it quina roja there. It kind of looks like cinnamon chunks or little, actually it kind of looks like the bark you put in your garden, you know?
Oh, like wood chips?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I mean, it is technically.
Yeah. So what do you do with that in a drink?
So so they were making tonic water. It has negligible amounts of quinine in it anymore, right? Or cinchona. So it's not really a medicine. In fact, when hydrochloroquine was kind of made to be some sort of, cure for COVID, fever tree,
Oh yeah.
They make
Oh,
the
that's
fancy tonics. They had to come out with a statement like, guys, this is not going to cure COVID. COVID is a virus, and malaria
Drink gin and
is
tonics.
right. Malaria is a protozoa, and so like you cure these things completely different ways. So a gin and tonic is probably not going to prevent you from getting or cure your COVID, but why take the chance?
How
right?
amazing!
Exactly.
How amazing would that be if you could just like
Just
drink
a gin and tonic a day keeps the doctor away, right?
keeps the
Right?
doctor away, keeps the COVID away, the
Yeah.
Rona.
Well, I loved I've seen so many articles now. I think I sent you guys one a couple weeks ago, where it's talking about how there are like certain strains of weed that supposedly
Yes.
help with COVID.
Right.
I did
Right.
see that. I did notice that.
So
We need to do more research there, evidently.
I'm just saying, if you want to be healthy,
So the world just needs to take a year off,
Drink
and
more.
drink gin and tonic, and smoke weed all day, and then we'll get rid of this shit.
I mean, we've been
Exactly.
practically doing that for a year now, so what gives?
is that not what you guys are
Right.
doing?
I don't know about you, but there've been a few meetings I've taken while enjoying a gin and tonic.
Nice.
Absolutely.
The benefits of being self-employed too.
Yeah.
Right.
Kevin's a gin lover, though, so like,
I love gin. I have, a half dozen or more gins sitting in front of me right now.
I do too.
See,
Right.
I love gin too, and a thing I know you guys know this, but a thing I learned last year was that gin is just fancy vodka. That's literally-
Yeah, it's
infused vodka, right?
neutral grain spirit with botanicals, right?
I mean, kind of technically everything that's alcoholic,
Yeah.
True.
but yes, in my experience, people either love gin or hate gin, and also in my experience, people who say they hate gin, about half or more of them actually don't hate gin. They've just had a really shitty gin and tonic or something.
Or they hate Christmas
wow.
Yes,
because
there's
a gin and tonic
Juniper's-
is like Christmas in your mouth.
It's true. Somebody,
Juniper's-
an acquaintance once described
Wow.
drinking
Now that I
gin
think
as
about it.
being mouth raped by a Christmas tree.
Yes.
He wasn't a fan, so
Well, was there tinsel on that tree or no?
absolutely.
I just wonder if people. I mean, there's certainly very juniper forward London dry gins in particular that that pine taste is very forward in it. But then you have beautiful more floral type gins like a Hendrix or
Very subtle, like there's a Japanese gin I know you've had, Kevin. Roku.
Oh,
gin.
yeah.
Beautiful.
It's chill.
and there's different styles of gin here in Utah. Probably most places in the U.S. We tend to mostly have on the market here London dry gins. It's the most popular style. But there's Plymouth gin, there's Old Tom gin, there's a lot of other styles of gin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would suggest to anyone who thinks they don't like gin, go to a bar or a place that has a variety of gin and sit down once COVID is over, and you can do that. Sit down at the bar and ask the bartender to try. Explain to them, hey, I don't think I like gin. It tastes like a Christmas tree fucking my mouth. And I bet you if it's a halfway decent bar, they'll be able to pull out a few gins and let you sample a few and find one that you do actually like, because there's so many great gin cocktails out there too. I feel sad for people when they say they don't like gin. So
I remember the
True.
first time I had gin, and I was just like, "What the fuck? What is this?" It was. I will say it was during my transition out of Mormonism,
sure.
and I was married at the time. I remember buying a bottle, and I had it like in my closet, and I would sneak a little sip here or there,
God.
and I tried because I thought, I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna get some gin. I'm gonna try some
It
stuff.
seems like it sounds like an adult drink, right?
What the
Whiskey and gin.
cool people drink gin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just swigged right from the bottle. And I was just like, holy shit, what is this?
And it wasn't the greatest gin, right? It was like something you had no idea what you were buying.
I mean,
right?
I think drinking in general takes a bit of adjustment
It's a
in
learning
terms of your
curve.
palate to like even so things like wine. In your head you might think it's gonna taste a certain way, and then you drink it and it's like, holy shit. For me, gin was kind of the same thing where I just felt like, okay, this is gonna be good, and then I try it and I'm like, whoa, what the fuck?
I think it's really funny because like your guys' experience with alcohol is so much different than mine, because this is how my experience with alcohol started. Was I was in high school, so hopefully what do you call it, the limit of breaking the law time passed or whatever it's called, I don't know.
That's all good.
You're
Um,
legal
The
now. That's
blood
all that
alcohol
matters.
level.
no.
No, the statute of whatever, I don't
Oh,
know.
limitations.
Limitation, yeah.
Love it.
It's starting to hit. I think it's really funny because like my first experience with alcohol was I would just always want to get drunk. Like that was the whole point of that was the whole point of alcohol. And like I just didn't know how to drink it. And like part of the shit I used to do is I would like fill like the reason why at schools why you can't have like I don't know what the rule is, but it's something like you can't have like clear water or something because they don't know if it's vodka or gin or something. So you have to have like flavored water, or at least this was the rule at the high school I went to.
Interesting.
The rule exists because there were students like me who would bring in vodka and sip
I've gone to places and put clear alcohol in bottles before.
Yeah,
it's a thing. It's a thing, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, but I think it kind of goes to show like we as a society, at least as a culture here in Utah, we don't teach people how to live life outside of the church. And I think it is very harmful to a lot of people. It took me a good maybe 3 years to actually learn how to drink alcohol responsibly. And the person who taught me that was a therapist I had. It wasn't a teacher, it wasn't a friend, it wasn't my parents. I literally like had to go to a therapist, and in a discussion he's just like, wait, are you telling me that you just drink just to get drunk all the time? That's not how you're supposed to drink. You're supposed to drink to enjoy it. Like
it's not healthy, Will.
Yeah, so like he really taught me how to drink responsibly and change my mindset on what even you're supposed to do when you drink.
Which, and I know we joke around sometimes on the show about like, you know, make sure you drink responsibly, and we're not joking. It may sound like we're joking because we've been drinking, but I think whether you're a high schooler or you're a 42-year-old man who just starts drinking, you have to learn that, because I was the same way. At first, I took it really slow, like slower than I wanted, even for similar reasons to Spencer, kind of experimenting and trying some new things and not necessarily wanting everyone to know about it. But then at some point you kind of go a little too strong and you learn your lesson, or hopefully you learn your lesson. And then the greatest day of my life was actually when I had my very first mixed cocktail, because I wasn't a beer fan, because I love beer. I love beer. But as we've talked about before, I can't burp. So beer doesn't always treat me right. And I enjoyed wine, but wine was like super confusing and scary to me. So I was like, when I was trying spirits of any kind, I was just drinking it straight, like shots or on the rocks. Number one, you get fucked up really quick if you're just drinking shots, right? Number two, especially to that new palate, it doesn't taste especially good.
No.
Now I love the taste of whiskey, but back then it was like, I got to choke this stuff down just so I can get it through. Then I learned about a mixed drink, a cocktail, and all of a sudden it was something I could sip slowly because I was savoring it and enjoying it. And that's actually my favorite thing about a gin and tonic, is I have complete control. You could say this of a lot of drinks, but especially because a gin and tonic is served generally in a taller glass. I can control the amount. If I'm like, I just want the smallest of buzz and the flavor of alcohol, I can make a 1/2 ounce gin and tonic, fill that baby up with tonic water, and be able to sip on something while I watch a movie or watch a TV show or something like that and not get fucked up. Or if I'm like Will and I'm just like, screw it, I'm just feeling like it's a party tonight, I can do the capital G gin and tonic and do
the Will and tonic, Kevin.
Will and tonic.
Will and tonic. I like
that. That is what that is, because
we're all at home, right? So we're not heading anywhere, like, getting totally blazed and then out the door, right? So we're not. When
Drink
we
responsibly.
do these shows, we get a little tipsy sometimes, but we're not,
There's a reason.
Irresponsible.
Yeah, there's a reason we do them on a day that none of us have to really go a lot of places or work
or do anything. Topically, anyways, this brings a few things to mind. So this idea of discovery outside of our faith, and it's something we've talked about before, but it's made me think a little bit about a few things. Like you said, today is Valentine's Day, stupid, fucked up, made up holiday fuck Valentine's Day, but you
Oh,
know,
cute.
this idea of
I prefer to call it Singles Awareness Day.
Singles Awareness Day or VD. I'm okay with VD. That's
VD.
totally fine.
VD. Happy VD.
Happy VD, everyone.
Enjoy
But
your VD.
no, I mean this idea of like, you know, the gin and tonic discovery, figuring things out.
Yeah.
No one really, as Will put it, no one. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a parent or someone responsible to model good behavior, and so you end up in these situations where you might do something you regret, you know, or you overdo it. I've had many times where I overdid it and totally, you know, made a fool of myself. I'll tell you guys a story since it is Valentine's Day. I went on a date with someone, had them over, and I was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna make some food. This will be good, you know. Made some pasta dish or something, and I remember making like so I made this pasta dish and I had some wine, red and white. Anyhow, long story short, overdid it. Ended up lying next to the person and just like totally barfed. it was too much because I didn't know how much is too much or when I was approaching my limit. I had no idea.
It's a learning curve.
Yeah, an unfortunate experience of learning. But with regards to what's happening currently in Utah, and I think this is a good segue. There was a bill. I don't remember the number of the bill exactly, but it was shot down and it had to do with consent, right? And teaching kids about consent in school. And this bill was shot down. I don't know if you guys had caught that or not.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
And so it was saying part of the sexual education process is teaching not only how to have sex or why people have sex or those things. I'm not sure we do a very good job of any of those things.
Not in Utah. Yeah.
But the idea was to add this part of the curriculum that encourages consent. Not just encourages.
Not just consent, but like also like prevention, right? Like knowing you don't have to like hug or, you know, touch people. Like you can say no, like.
Right. Because sex education shouldn't just be about the penis and the vagina, right? Like,
right.
I don't mean that to sound crass, but like so much of what everyone thinks about when they think about sex education is
the condom on the banana in class or whatnot.
How you make a baby, how you prevent making a baby, or maybe some disease-based things. But really, all of the precursor to all of that is the, you know, touching people or, you know, whether it be hugging or kissing or any of these things, that all leads to that. And just like we were talking about, like Will talked about, I didn't have someone to teach me the correct way to drink responsibly. It's the same with, and unfortunately, I mean, I'm a big fan of being open with my kids, and maybe more so than they want sometimes.
Right.
But whether it be drinking or whether it be sexuality, obviously a parent talking to a child is the best option. But I'm also an enormous fan of good quality sex education in schooling. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. And so this was, I guess the mid 80s in 7th or 8th grade. I think it was 8th grade. We had a very, 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 like a whole quarter of health class was sex education. And we learned everything. So much so that my parents eventually asked me to teach my brother and sister about the birds and the bees because they were trying and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, here's the issue in Utah, right? Like how many parents in Utah can really give comprehensive sex education when they were like married at 18 or 19 and never had sex? They have one partner. They don't, I mean, I don't know. There's kind of an interesting dynamic in Utah where it's a virtue to be kind of innocent in a way, like not understand or know as an adult even. My mom will like talk about like, oh, I can't watch PG-13, you know, that's just, you know, they're too upsetting to me, you know. But like, like these parents, they're not going to teach good sex education in the home. It's just not going to happen because they don't understand either sexually transmitted infections or like all these
Sure.
other things like consent, even like, you know, we're not taught that in young women or young men's in the church, right? Like nobody ever said anything to us about that sort of
No,
thing.
in the LDS church curriculum, maybe not in the curriculum, but certainly in the
No.
culture, it's boys are taught, that's the perspective I have, that you really can't help yourself, so you need God to help you, because if it's up to
Or-
you, you're gonna fuck everything.
Well,
Or-
they had that one ad where it was like a war. Do you guys remember
Oh
this?
yeah, Matt.
No,
Like-
what was
Like
this?
you have to constantly fight it.
It's
Guess what?
something
Masturbation,
Yeah, the
You
gist
guys-
of it was like
You don't need to.
the fight against masturbation or something was like a battlefield.
Wait, is that the one that the person made the movie about at Sundance recently?
I think no, it's not that.
Oh.
Okay.
Although I do want to watch that. What I was going to say was
What's the Sundance movie? Do you remember the name?
Uh,
Touched by the Master's Hand, right?
Touch by
Touch,
the
touch of the master's hand.
Touch
Yeah.
of the Master's
such a
Hand.
good name. Whoever named that. So my perspective of this, as somebody who like went through sex ed, like I don't know, like 7 years ago, some crazy recent number like that. They, from what I remember, it was mostly just like trying to scare you from STDs. Like that's all it was. It's like, oh, if you have sex, you're gonna get gonorrhea or you're gonna get syphilis. Like it's that's like all it was.
Which obviously it's good to teach about those things,
Right.
for sure.
For sure.
But-
It's
Absolutely.
valid, right?
But some of the things that they didn't teach me that I wish that they would have was like the relationships and the emotional impact that sex has.
Right.
Because like here in Utah, I don't know how to explain it. Here in Utah, it's almost like you feel guilty whenever you have sex because
That's-
all of society tells you that it's wrong, but
Yeah.
it's not wrong. What is wrong is if you do it the wrong way, as in you don't get consent from your partner,
You don't practice
Exactly.
safe sex. Yeah.
or you don't have safe sex. Like the real goals of sex ed should be teaching people how to live a sexy health or
Oh no, that's good. We should all learn to live a sexy life.
Sexy,
a
healthy
healthy,
life.
A sexy
healthy
life.
sex life.
I
Not
love
a
that.
Sexy
I
and
love that.
healthy. Yeah. No,
Um,
actually, like my kids like bring home disclosures and things like, oh, are we allowed to
Right.
participate in whatever class? And I'm like, they're not going to teach you anything anyway. I guess, yeah, sign off on whatever. But like, so if I read that bill about the sex ed thing, I don't know if any of you guys looked at that. But it talked a little bit about what's in the current curriculum as far as health and sex ed goes. And it's obviously
Not much.
not much, but no, it's abstinence until marriage, and don't have sex until you're married, and then only maintaining one partner ever, like ever,
oh my
like
God.
so,
And-
like
Zero non-heteronormative sex, right?
bingo.
Like,
No, but the kind of like idea that somebody will always be 100% monogamous during their entire lifetime is such like a ridiculous idea, right? Like at
We
some
were
point
not-
in somebody's life, they may
we
have
have
one or
not
more
evolved.
than one partner, right? Like
not that I'm saying someone shouldn't be monogamous if they want to be. Like,
exactly. But
it's an option.
did
It's an
not
option.
evolve to be monogamous.
no,
Monogamy is a fucking scam.
It's
Okay?
a scam. It's a
It's a
scam.
It is a scam. It
Here's
is
the
a
thing.
scam set up like before like Christianity really took over.
Yeah.
People were not monogamous, and I'm not like saying that
True,
like
though.
non-monogamy is better than monogamy. I'm just saying that like this whole obsession with monogamy is just stupid and it's oppressive.
And
They want.
it's often taught. I don't know if this is in school curriculum, but to me, in the church or in other places, it's often taught that that's the natural, like that's the way, and you're unnatural
God's way.
if
The-
like
I-
you even think about having sex with another
I
person,
just view
you
this
know?
as so maybe this is more of like a feminist viewpoint is it's really the patriarchy that is telling us
It
that
is.
monogamy is natural because women under patriarchal rule, women need to be like the subject of the man.
Well, yeah,
So if there's even the possibility of people having sex with other people, that goes against the man controlling the woman, and that's fucked up, in my opinion.
yeah, here's the way we know that's especially the way of thinking here in Utah. Like, even back when in the state of Utah polygamy was a thing, women still had to be monogamous to their one partner.
Yep.
The man was just allowed to. So of course, yes, it's definitely a part of patriarchal rule, right?
Right.
Societal patriarchal rule.
At almost any time during her history when monogamy was, a thing, right? Like think back to the 16 and 1700s when, it was kind of okay for the man to have liaisons or, mistresses or whatnot. But if the woman did, she could be killed or, he could
Right.
divorce her or, whatever, right? Like sort of all been repercussions for the woman and not necessarily for the man.
Yeah, and we still see that in our society today. Like we still have this. Oh my god, this fucking creeps me out so much. The stupid purity ring shit, where fathers like enter in a promise with their daughters that they're only gonna have sex with somebody that they marry. Are you
That's
fucking
creepy as shit.
Why are men so obsessed with women having
Virginity.
sex?
Yeah.
And especially their daughters having sex? You know what? Why don't you have that same obsession with your sons? What the fuck? It's so fucking creepy and I don't understand it.
Well, I think all great points. I think I'm gonna be the devil's advocate here. There are some.
Do it.
I don't have kids, so like me saying all this stuff is totally me not.
No, I as of like right now, I'm ethically non-monogamous, but I come from a mindset and upbringing that stresses it, just like you guys, and I can see some benefits in a what's the word
Partnership.
in a lazy sense. Where if I'm monogamous, I don't have to communicate. I don't even have to assume that this person is having other interactions, right? So it's lazy in a sense that, from my perspective, again, I'm not criticizing people who choose that path,
Sure.
but I can see some drawbacks where you're not being forced to really be upfront and communicate about things. You can just make some assumptions. It creates a set of guarantees, and I can see that being problematic. As for the underlying motivations of men to control women, again, from my perspective, I'm going to put my Mormon brain back in my head. Part of it, I think, was insecurity. I remember growing up and receiving counsel from people, I won't say who said, don't marry a divorced woman. I was like, why? Or don't be with someone who's been with someone else. That was something that was stressed to me growing up.
Really? Why?
Yeah, there was
But it's chewed
a
gum,
push
Belinda.
against. It's chewed gum. It's this
or
whole
is she
narrative.
gonna expose you to these exciting and mysterious things that you haven't known before? Is this part
Possibly.
of
I
it?
mean, there's
That
that.
too. Yeah.
It's a part of this, slut shaming thing within Mormonism and other religions, and this Puritan mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Puritanical. Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, if someone has done certain things, they're all of a sudden not worthy of your consideration.
Even a
And it's
divorced
super
woman who
fucked up.
was, married in the temple and like a virgin before she was like literally married. Like I find that interesting that.
But I think if I were to examine my Mormon brain, it has a bit to do with insecurity.
Okay, I get
the
that.
fact that this person made this choice. What does that say about me and my willingness to be with this person? Obviously, it says nothing.
Yeah.
But in the Mormon mindset that I had, again, I'm qualifying everything I say by saying this was
Right.
my experience.
Right.
I was hesitant because I was afraid of what that would mean for me
Yeah.
personally.
Like what
'Cause
expectations there were, right?
Yeah, why
Like,
did I quote unquote settle for the defiled woman instead of going
or
for
what expectations she had of you, right?
that
well,
too?
right? Like an
um,
experienced person, non-experienced
absolutely.
person.
And truth be told, I ended up partnering with someone who, when I was Mormon, who had experiences before, and that's fine. It wasn't a thing, but I was taught from a leadership and mentoring standpoint that this is undesirable and by all means avoid this situation. And it's
But-
messed up.
I will take that back to the patriarchy in that it's an ownership model. I mean, monogamy is to a certain degree. This reminds me of that quote you posted just today, I think, Spencer.
Yeah, just to tell the
about-
listeners. So, if you haven't yet, there's a autobiography by Trevor Noah, and it's called Born a Crime, and it's about his life in South Africa. I don't know if you guys have
a great
listened
book.
to or read it,
Yeah.
but he tells a story about this dog that he befriended. You know, he had this relationship with this animal, and they had this beautiful friendship relationship. Anyhow, one day the dog decides, you know what, peace out, motherfucker, I'm out. So I'm gonna go hang out with the other dogs and goodbye. And so the dog's name was Foofy. Foofy left his life. He was distraught. He couldn't make sense of why Foofy would do that to him. And his grandma taught him something I think is important in the context of relationships, that we don't own the things we love, right? Monogamy is not about ownership even. And I'm not saying it is. It's about choosing to be chosen, choosing to be in a certain context, but understanding that the other person is themselves. They are a person.
Right.
And at any instant you're choosing each other. And that's a powerful concept. And it just resonated with me so strongly when I read that, because for me, I'm single, but that's what I want. I want to have that autonomy, or at least even a sense of belonging to myself at all times.
Right.
Sure.
Not about being selfish. And I have to say that out loud because Mormonism conditioned me to not be selfish, not be prideful, not have boundaries, all these things. But I have to remind myself.
yeah.
I have to hold on to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, my experience with monogamy and with more of, if I'm putting my Mormon brain in my head, I always thought it like, I don't know. Again, this is me putting the Mormon brain in my head. So this isn't how I actually
It's kind of
think.
hard when you've been out
Yeah.
for a while.
True.
Yeah, this is not how I think now. But I think back then I used to think like, I don't know, like I was betrayed almost. If somebody had like any sort of intimacy with someone else. But it's just not,
Yes.
but it's
That's the perfect word.
Yeah.
This idea of betrayal somehow.
yeah,
So-
but
It's jealousy.
it's very much jealousy as well, but it's just not true, because it's their body. It's not your body. They get to decide what they want to do with their body, and what they do with their body has no impact on you.
Right.
Unless you guys have mutually come together and set boundaries. That's what it's all about, is like when people talk about being like polyamorous, when you are open to having intimacy with multiple people, all it's saying is that you are being clear with your boundaries with your partners, and you're clear with the expectations. And some of those
go ahead.
expectations include like, hey, I don't really care if you're intimate with someone else. And that's not a problem, because when it comes to relationships, it doesn't matter about the physical aspect. It matters about how you feel about each other. And if there's trust there, if you're meeting your expectations and you're staying within the boundaries that you've mutually set, there
Sure.
shouldn't be a problem.
Here's the thing. So like monogamous relationships can be great and they can be awful, right? I think where religion and monogamy get it wrong is that like somebody in the relationship has to sacrifice a portion of who they
Right.
are to fit into the monogamous relationship, right?
Right.
What's
and
an
so-
example of that sacrifice?
I don't know, like, or say like a woman or a man giving up their job to raise a child, or like not being friends with certain people because their spouse or partner wouldn't like it. Like, so I have a friend from many, many years ago, 20 plus years ago. She's still very Mormon, and she posted on her Instagram a discussion she'd had with her preteen son about like having a friend who was a girl after he's married. And she was like, oh, no, you can't be friends with a girl after you're married unless you're both friends with her. And I was like, well, that's a terrible thing to teach your child, first of all. And like, if you can't trust your partner to be friends with another person of the opposite or same sex, depending on what your orientation is, like,
Exactly.
if you can't trust them to do that, then you should not be in that relationship. It's just flat out, like,
Exactly.
right? Like, either you need to move on or like change your expectations, go to fucking therapy. I don't know. But whatever it is, like this is such a toxic thing to teach your child.
You make such a good point, Blenda, because like that's kind of what I was thinking of is monogamy. And it's not really just monogamy. I think what I'm talking more about is like the patriarchy. Is it kind of sets up this like expectation that like once you're with a partner, you can no longer interact with the opposite sex.
Right.
Like women can't have male friends and men can't have female friends because it's threatening to the relationship. And I think like monogamy or patriarchy or whatever you want to call it could just be our like more toxic religious culture that we live in.
Do you think that's something that's like spoken or taught, like don't have friends? I know Belinda shared that one example, but
think of Mike and Mother Pence, right?
Mother, that's right.
I think for
Mother
some
Pence.
people it might be explicit like that, but I think most of the time it's more implicit, where people feel uncomfortable being around women. But like, I don't know. I think for me it's just really funny. Like I have my roommate is a woman. Like, I don't have any problem with that. There's no weird thing happening. We're really good friends, and it shouldn't
even if there was something happening, I wouldn't judge you, Will.
And it wouldn't be necessarily weird, right? Like, I mean, it could be weird if that's your thing, but
if you want it to be weird.
But like that's what I'm talking about. Is like there's like this expectation that like if you're with the person of an opposite sex, there must be something going on. It's not.
Right.
Relationships span genders. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. And I think this toxic culture of like, oh, we must have like a single partner that we must be with. So therefore, if you're with someone else, it's potential partnership. No, it doesn't need to be. We can just be friends. I think there's just like this toxic aspect of this culture that we're living in.
I think this goes back to the idea that men can't control themselves, right? That they have no control over their mind or body. And that like, should they become friends with a woman, they will immediately mount her or something, right? Like, it's just, they can't stop themselves, right?
Can't help it. Gotta
mount.
No, you're absolutely right, Belinda.
So like in Utah and in Mormonism, right? Like, there's the idea of modesty, right? You can't show shoulders, you can't show certain, too much leg, too much chest, too much, who knows, like whatever body part that is, sexualized by a male, right? Like, don't show that. Like, what is that, right? So like the idea that these boys can't control themselves, like if you are somehow, taken advantage of or raped, like you share in the responsibility. Like
you were wearing yoga pants after yoga class, so
exactly,
it's kind of your own fault, right?
You know what?
That's the idea, right?
So this could also be like there's different waves of feminism, as everybody knows, and I think this latest incoming wave of feminism and just more generally like progressive thinking of Gen Z is really interesting because like I have a little sister and I'm really open about this sort of conversation. I have this sort of conversation with my parents at the dinner table. Like I have tried really hard to promote good feminist thinking, right?
Good job.
And it's been really interesting to see because like my little sister, like I've talked about rape culture before and she gets it. She gets it. And it seems like her friends are like, it's kind of spreading this whole idea of we can't continue living in a society where women are expected to protect themselves against men who should be doing it themselves. Like Bernie Sanders kind of brought this up in his campaign, where he talked about the need for male allies in women's issues.
Absolutely.
Because we all have friends that are toxic as shit.
You all have a mother, right? Everybody has a mother, whether biologically or, in your life now, right? Like,
well, what I'm saying is we all have friends or men all have this. It's probably like every guy that's watching this will know what I mean. We all have that friend who's a little bit sexist, who says a little bit kind of like risque type of joke, or says like some stupid shit like, women, go get me a sandwich, stupid shit like that. It's time that we fucking stop that. That's the problem. We let this shit slide all the fucking time. It needs to end. Seriously. Like all my guy friends, I've had this conversation with them. It's toxic. It leads to people getting raped. We need to stop it.
I was just going to say that no, we love our weekly Will rant.
I love it.
That needs to be. We need to have a little
weekly Will rant and just a tip with Kevin.
Will rant. No,
we'll figure out the other segments.
I think you made me think of something, Will, and I think this is really important. The first step in sex education is feminism, and what I mean by that is, without respect for a woman as a heterosexual man, I do what the fuck I want, right? Like, I'm the man, I'm in charge, I'm the owner from the perspective
I would caveat what you're saying by saying what you're presenting is coming from a heteronormative perspective, but even then, like, asking for more in the educational system is probably a bit much, but I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying there's so much more we could do.
So beyond that, if we step away from Utah, where everything in sex education is taught with heteronormativity, is that a word?
True.
Obviously, whether we're talking about gender or we're talking about sexuality or any of those things, it should come from those perspectives too. But respect for the other person you're being intimate with is point number one.
Right.
And from there, then we talk about the why and the how and how to prevent certain things. But until relationships are come at, whether they're monogamous or otherwise, from a perspective of, I trust this person so much that I'm going to give physically myself to them, it's the whole conversation is pointless, because otherwise half of the population feels like, well, I can't help myself. Well, I'm expected to act this way anyway, so why hold back, right?
And it starts with consent, right? Like the whole thing that Utah does not want to teach. They don't want consent. They don't want to know. So I guess there was a hearing beforehand, and people were able to come forward and, give their opinions of why they did not want to have consent in the Utah school system. And they ranged from not wanting their children to know about sexual violence. And they brought their child with them to the hearing while they said that.
Oh my God.
That's like the one thing
not wanting them to know it's a thing.
Right. And again, that's that mentality of innocence, right? Like in Utah and Mormon culture, like not knowing, that this sort of thing happens. Guess what? Innocence does not protect a child. It doesn't.
No, not at all.
And you set them up for precarious situations, to be molested, to be abused in other ways, to abuse others as well, because they don't understand what they're doing and why and what's happening, right? Like they just are caught up in the physical sensations or emotions, and they get caught in these awful, awful situations that don't benefit anybody.
I saw a post the other day from someone who is in a similar context to us, leaving Mormonism, leaving their marriage. And they were like, I didn't learn about consent till I was in my 30s. And I'm like,
same.
Holy shit. I mean, I didn't either. I'm not putting the person down and saying how crazy that is. Will, you're awesome. You're in a great position compared to the rest of us. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And it is precipitated by the things you just said, Belinda. The fact that we don't talk about it. The fact that we pretend it doesn't exist. Right. And when I speak with people, often I'll say, I learned about sex in all the wrong ways. Right. Use your imagination. I learned about it in all the wrong ways.
True.
And by wrong, I mean, I didn't have.
By making mistakes, right? And learning from them.
Yeah. And I didn't have people in positions of trust, love, care, influence that I could reach out to and talk to about it. Now that I'm in that position, I try to normalize those things with my kids. And it's been great. It's great to know that they get it. They can come to me with questions if something happens, whatever. That's what I wanted for myself, and I never had.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I hope that, we can each, if you have kids, if you're listening to this, we can break the cycle. We can normalize good behavior and teach our kids.
This is why I was really emphasizing, like, you need to be talking about this with your friends. Like you really do. Like this sort of conversation, it can't be taboo. Not with your kids,
No.
especially not with your friends. You need to have this sort of conversation with your friends so that they can understand that they're going to be ostracized if they disagree, that you don't need consent.
I will say,
Yeah.
we often talk about normalizing things or making things not taboo. I'm going to tell you right now, having those conversations with your friends or with your children, I know from both situations, they will still be a little uncomfortable at first because society has taught us that these are taboo subjects, that these
Right.
are back when Belinda and I lived together, we have 7 kids between us, and they're all actually they're all teenagers now, except for
All
one
line up in age
who's
right now.
a little older than the teen years, just barely. But we set them down one day for a family home evening, as we called it, with a literal box. It is a beautiful yellow fancy box, and we bought 100 condoms and put them in there. And they were multicolored. They were fun.
Silly things. Yeah. They probably don't work out well. I don't know.
Condoms should be fun. Well, I'm certain they work well. They might not anymore because it's been a little while.
So
but
in your demonstration, did you opt for a tumescent zucchini or did you go with a banana?
I went with the banana option.
We made
So
bananas,
it's easy to, because a bunch of bananas is easier to buy than a bunch of zucchinis. No, I know what you're referring to.
I want to know now.
No, I won't say because we keep a little privacy on this show.
For sure.
We literally set everyone down, gave everyone a banana, gave everyone a condom, and they had to learn how to open the condom. They had to learn how to, I demonstrated first on a banana, obviously.
What do you mean by first, Kevin?
just to be
What do you mean
clear.
by first?
I'm going to demonstrate this.
I grasped the banana in my
God.
hand, showed them
Leave
how
a
to
little
open the
space. Leave a little space in the end. And
showed them how to be careful opening it so you don't like cause any punctures, and then let the banana fulfill its destiny. But then everyone was required before they could leave, as much as many of them
wanted to be gone now,
groaned
right?
and like rolled their eyes and didn't want to be there at all. Everyone was required to properly sheathe the banana before they could leave and demonstrate that they knew. And then the box with the remainder of the condoms was in the living room on a shelf that everyone could access. And everyone was told, whether it's you or a friend or even a stranger, if that's the case, needs access to condoms, this box is for anyone and everyone. Please don't take more than you need at any given time because,
we saw some foolishness happen with the condoms. It was fine. Every once in a while they were like, oh, being silly with them.
That's part of the learning too, right?
I agree.
Better to learn that when you're 14, 15, 16 years old than when you're 42 and you're like, what the fuck is this? I don't even know.
So if you're listening to this and you've thought about giving us a book deal, just know that the book will be called Banana of Destiny, and there is no negotiation about it. The Banana of Destiny.
Oh my god.
No, that was the most hilarious night. It was awesome. But I also opened a dialogue with our kids where I think they knew our parents are not going to judge us, obviously, and they, want to make sure that we're safe and healthy, and they'll do what they can to make that possible, right? Whether we have sex or not. If you choose not to, great.
And
if you choose to, wonderful.
We've touched on post-Mormon discovering ourselves and life and all that, but I know we haven't gone into detail. It's a topic I'd love to go into detail on and just talk about our experiences and what we learned and how we fucked up, whatever. I remember trying a condom for the first time. I was like, okay, let's see what this is like. I've never, this is my new phase in life. I got to figure this shit out. And it also reminds me of a conversation I had with my therapist at one point, because I was struggling with my identity as a Mormon and my path forward, being a newly single person, right? Having partaken of the forbidden fruit, so to speak.
Changed, right?
And meaning I've, had sex in life. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And she's like, what? I'm like, just not have sex till I'm married again. And she's like, why would you do that? And I was like, oh, thank you. It was just comforting to hear because
Validating, yeah.
I was in that mindset. Like, I think it was Will had mentioned earlier where, yeah, you're meant to wait until you're married, or you're meant to have that one person.
Right.
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and certainly a topic we could dig into later.
For sure. Even as a Mormon, I wondered how like divorced persons or widowed persons like navigated dating and not having sex until they were married again, right? Like I was like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine what a nightmare that
I'm
is.
sure there are people like that, but I'm not one of those people.
Right.
Once a cat or the banana, either one, is out of the bag, like it's hard to put that toothpaste back in the hole,
Once the banana's out of the bag.
That's a little weird.
But back to consent. The banana goes back into the bag sometimes, right?
Put the
Like
banana back
for
in the
sure,
bag.
for sure.
So I think
No.
that the most important part of all this is consent is part of what I'm saying right here is being open about it.
Right.
Having the ability to have these sort of discussions with your friends, with your families, with your parents is really important, because that's when you can start to address things like rape,
yeah.
where people are more open to discussing the problems that they've encountered during intimacy or whatever. Like
Sure.
it includes like kids who don't know how to be with somebody, or
Right, because they've been
what
told
means
you have to
emotion.
hug your uncle before we can leave to go home, or like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like weird shit like that, which is
It
ingrained in our, childhood years,
it
right?
encompasses every aspect of what we're talking about. It's just being open with our experiences, with no judgment. Don't make it taboo. It can be kind of funny at times. We've all been laughing, like but it doesn't need to be weird.
No.
It's normal human fucking behavior.
Exactly. Here's the thing. How many of you have experienced this, right? Like a rated R movie back when you were LDS, right? So there's a rated R movie that comes out, critically acclaimed. It's a big deal. Everybody's talking about it.
Right.
Whether you can watch that movie or not is dependent on one thing.
Boobs.
Is there sex or is there only violence, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
violence is normalized.
Violence is
amongst
okay.
Violence is okay. And
In
sex
Mormonism,
isn't.
violence is totally
it's
fine.
Schindler's List. It's just genocide and murder and like
But
degradation.
God
of
forbid
human
you see a
beings.
titty. God forbid a titty
Porky's-
comes out.
Porky's, the boobs come out, and Bush.
Right,
too,
but say
actually,
a really moving comes out, like moving film that's really important. A moving.
Sorry.
Ooh. Anyway, but it comes out, but there's some sex in it. Immediately in the Mormon community, it's kind of like taboo. You shouldn't see that movie. If there's violence only, and it could be fucking graphic ass violence in this show,
Yeah.
and it's okay to see because it's just violence. Why is normalizing violence a thing and not something that's a real human behavior like sex?
Yeah.
But it better not be sexual violence because you might see a nipple during that act.
Yeah.
so-
Sexual violence probably.
You know,
isn't a great
it's
thing to say, but-
interesting you make that point, Belinda. I feel as though generationally or maybe time-wise, Mormonism's changed and evolved a lot in the sense that I know Mormons now that smoke weed or they drink or they have sex or they watch these movies. Whereas I think Kevin, Belinda, and myself come from a time where these things were heavily prohibited.
Right.
Definitely.
To the point where it just fucks with your head. So it's interesting to see a different approach. And Will, I'm curious, I don't know exactly how long you've been out, but were some of those perceptions different for you as far as media consumption goes or other things?
I think a little bit. I had friends growing up where like Harry Potter was bad because it was witchcraft.
I
Like
know.
Right.
everybody knows
funny.
crazy people like that. But for the most part, I don't know. I felt like it was normal. Like PG-13 wasn't really okay because there was like some violence and stuff. But like if you asked your parents, or if I asked my parents, and they would normally say yes, like that sort of thing. But rated R was just always wrong. But for me, I think this is not new, but I think it's really kind of taken the spotlight is pornography, where
Right.
pornography is all of a sudden like the most evil thing in the whole entire world. I think of pornography kind of in the same way as alcohol, where because there's studies on this. BYU has done studies on this
It's true.
that have shown that people who are religious tend to actually have problems with pornography.
True.
Where it
Because
becomes
it's demonized, because they drill it into their head that as soon as they
Exactly.
watch that, they are a flawed person, right? Like,
exactly.
and so they
But
dwell on it constantly.
Absolutely, but it's not true. This goes back to my thing about having a healthy discussion about this sort of thing.
Oh man, we gotta have just a porn episode. There's so much to say.
Oh,
There's
porn
so much to
episode's actually a
say.
good idea.
I agree.
Belinda and I have a new friend who we could talk
Pisco sours and porn. But
We
go ahead,
had
Ro.
I had a rap battle with a porn star in my apartment
It's
the
true.
night before
Ooh.
last.
I want to know all about that.
a literal rap battle. Yeah.
But what I was saying is like pornography is not a problem when
It wasn't me.
of course this is me generalizing. Of course I know that there are people who have serious problems with obsessive compulsive
True.
um
And
But
there's some porn
pornography-
that is, not,
absolutely
preferable, right? Like,
we could
just don't look at that shit, right?
Obviously,
like, don't
child
start.
pornography.
Let's
Obviously.
assume Will's talking about responsibly sourced,
Yes.
created,
There you go.
distributed porn.
Of
Because
course.
there are many angles to this. But go
Yes.
ahead, and
We
literally
could-
and figuratively.
we could literally
Triangles.
have a whole entire episode just discussing
And we should. We definitely should.
and we should maybe we'll have a guest.
Can I make a
That would be
point?
funny.
Let me finish this real fast. It's just really fast. But all I was saying was like, it goes back to my original thought on like, you need to be open about it. When you're hiding things, it becomes a problem. Just like with alcohol, when you're drinking alcohol, if you start hiding it from those who you love,
Yeah.
you might have a problem.
Right.
If you're open
Right.
about it and you're discussing it, and you're not making it like the secret part of your life, there's not really that problem with it. But if you're open about it, you can have this discussion and people can start telling you if they think that there might be a problem.
So my only point is tied to that, but very loosely. It's a fact check, really. First of all, it's wizardry, not witchcraft in Harry Potter. And second of all, the reason you should not watch Harry Potter is not because of wizardry or witchcraft, but because of the turf that J.K. Rowling is, and fuck J.K. Rowling.
Bingo.
Fuck J.K. Rowling.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
All right, sorry, just had to get that off my chest. so.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that
I don't know enough about that one. I'm gonna have to go do my research.
Do your
Absolutely.
research, man.
Yeah.
Everyone should. Yeah.
she's
Fuck
a
J.K.
fucking
Rowling.
tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Sorry, that was Kevin's rant for the week.
No, but I think the connective tissue here to everything going on. So you have the abstinence based education, the reluctance to introduce the idea of consent, the heteronormative perspective, not talking about sex and porn. Utah specifically, and I would say by extension the Mormon faith and other high demand conservative religions seem to have this weird obsession with sex and what people
Yeah.
are doing with their bodies or their time or how they choose to express themselves. And I can't
Agreed.
quite wrap my head around it. I don't understand where it comes from or what it is.
Right.
It's just fucking weird.
Did any of you ever watch the TV show 19 Kids and Counting? Because I was
No.
obsessed with this show. It was ridiculous.
We only have sex when summoning a child from the nether.
I guess that's a thing. But anyway, this ultra conservative Baptist family in Arkansas? I think it's Arkansas. Like they're down the south.
The
They're
Duggars,
ridiculous.
right?
The
The
Duggars,
Duggars,
right?
yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
Oh,
So the Duggars are like Mormon times 20, actually. Like, and I was actually surprised when I started watching the show that they
But
weren't
not
Mormon.
Mormon. Not
They're
actually.
not Mormon. They're Baptist, and they actually have their kind of own denomination where they hold church in their own home, like because they didn't agree with the Baptist stuff that was going on. Anyway, it's a freaking insane show. It was ridiculous. but they were that same mentality where to maintain innocence in their children was like this virtue, right? Well, the oldest child, a son, ended up raping many of his younger sisters.
That's right. I did hear that. In the news.
So
Did they get canceled? 'Cause I know
No,
we
they
just
ended
talked
up.
about cancel culture. They should be one that
I
they should be
agree. I
canceled
agree. Like at least the
entirely.
son, right? Like so.
Is the show still on?
The show, I don't know if the regular show's still on, but they have like they call it Counting On, and it's about the daughters and their families.
So he is raping his siblings.
Yeah, and because he's told that, like, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know, because he doesn't know anything about sex. He's never received any sort of sex education. Likely is the first issue, right? Like he doesn't know the first goddamn thing about sex. Their internet is filtered down to like a few like very like conservative Christian sites. They can only get on and see certain things, and it's heavily monitored. They aren't even allowed phones. You're only allowed to have a social media account after you're married.
Oh God! And is it one of those double name like
it often
Jack
is.
and Diane?
So
Exactly.
that reminds me of just talking about that reminds me a lot of so I'm on the internet all the time, so I just know all this shit. It reminds me a lot of like incel culture, where men.
What is incel culture?
Tell us more.
Culture,
Yeah,
Will.
so incel.
I know what it is, but I don't know if our listeners know.
Right.
So incel is involuntarily celibate. It's men who feel like they are
Entitled
to have sex with women, and they have not been able to partake of that entitlement.
And that entitlement turns to anger and sometimes violence, right?
Exactly. This goes to like Jordan Peterson fans, who Jordan Peterson started to recommend, like, why don't we have some sort of mandatory sex for men where women have to subject themselves to men?
That's a thing.
I cannot even.
It's a disgusting way to view the world, where men feel like they are entitled to have sex.
Yeah.
Sex
Because they're a nice guy, right? Like nice guy.
Exactly. And we have been conditioned in this culture through media and through fucking stupid ass YouTubers who make it seem like
not us
entitled to have women. You're not entitled to have women. I'm sorry. You're just not.
Right.
So
I think maybe
I
don't know, maybe this is hyperbolic and incendiary with me, but I feel like Mormonism has that incel vibe in the sense that
absolutely
it's an entitlement to women as a commodity. There's a commoditization.
How about that? If you're a good missionary,
sexuality.
you will get a hot wife.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I know Kevin, you went on an LDS mission. Will did not. Praise be.
Thank God.
I didn't either. Thank God.
And Belinda didn't either.
I knew I couldn't sell that shit.
I remember my local missionary group leader, called a mission president, even saying that, the harder you work, the hotter your wife's going to be, or this is your reward, as if a woman is something to gift to a man.
Women are not fucking property.
It's fucked up.
It's true.
But that is Mormonism. That is at the core of Mormonism.
It's true. Yeah. And I want to tell a story because Kevin was actually my first introduction to any sort of feminism. I don't know if he remembers the story at all, but one day early on in our relationship, like, I said something that I had done was not ladylike, and he got this angry look on his face. He was so upset by my saying this, and he was like, yes, Kevin's one of the good ones. He's like, what the heck? Ladylike is just a term they use to like put you in your place and make you conform to like a certain set of standards by the patriarchy. And I was like,
good job, Kevin.
What are you saying? I don't know those words. So
it's a dog whistle. I mean, I encounter this too as a black person, a black man, if you will, in our society, where people are like, wow, you're so well spoken. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Shit. That's so ladylike. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? A
Yeah.
lady is
Yeah.
who I am. It's not how I act. Black is who I am. It's not how I act. Fuck you.
Right.
Like straight up.
This is why I have a big problem with Jordan Peterson.
I don't know who that is, but fuck him. I'll look him
Tell
up.
us
though.
about Jordan Peterson.
So I don't want to tell you about Jordan Peterson.
Fuck you, Jordan Peterson. We hate your ass.
Fuck Jordan
He
Peterson.
is like kind of like he used to teach some class in Canada, and there's some controversy where in Canada they
Is he
wanted-
related to, is he affiliated with Gavin McInnes at all, Proud Boys founder?
Well,
Okay.
They kind of
'Cause
have
they're both Canadian, right?
yeah, they kind of have the same circle. They call themselves the what do they call it? The intellectual dark web is what they call themselves. It's like with Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro and all them. And it's not. I'm not saying this all about all of them. I'm saying this about Jordan Peterson. There was some sort of controversy in Canada where trans students wanted to be referred to by their preferred pronouns, and Jordan Peterson was very against it. He said it was like them taking away his rights and all this shit because trans students wanted to be referred to by their preferred pronouns. What, like, anyways.
Or just their pronouns, not even the preferred one, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, so what I was saying was, so Jordan Peterson, this is why I have a big problem with him, is he always refers to things as masculine or feminine. And he always refers to things that are bad as feminine. And all the things that are good as masculine.
Interesting.
And then he'll always be like, oh, no. It's not about like, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything. This is just how the world is. Some things are masculine and some things are feminine. No, it's not true.
How about just being human?
Masculine and femininity are fucking made up concepts. They're
Bingo.
fucking.
Yep.
We had this discussion the other night as to whether a certain, sexual proclivity or kink was like because of a certain femininity or masculinity. And I don't know. I just don't buy into like this. I'm, feminine or masculine because of a certain idea that I have that like turns me on. I don't know. Like, talk about it.
Yeah. Talk amongst yourselves. No, that's in several groups I'm in on Facebook that are relationship style groups. I'll leave it at that in case anyone's listening. This conversation comes up a lot, this idea of masculine energy versus feminine energy. There's several gurus. I don't know their names right now. I haven't read their books or listened to their talks. Are people different? Yes. Sometimes do some of those differences manifest themselves physically? Yeah, sure. Is it binary? Fuck no, it's not binary. And everything in this life, whether it's gender, you're a computer programmer, so don't completely fuck the binary, but yeah, fuck most of the binary. But whether it's gender, whether it's sexuality, whether it's race, right? Whether it's like pretty much anything, even religion or belief system, like it's not clear cut. Just because I say I'm atheist, or I say, maybe even better because I say I'm agnostic. Well, one agnostic is not the same as another agnostic. One person who identifies as female and straight is not the same as another woman who's female and straight. So like this whole idea of normalcy, of things tied to generalizations or tied to physical attributes or emotional attributes is just complete bullshit and complete
I agree.
bunk, so.
And this like came into play like back a million years ago, right? Not a million years, but like figuratively a million years ago, like when it was the idea that women were not sexual creatures, right? Like they didn't have the same sexual urges or like, that men did, right? I don't know. It's just a stupid, fucked up idea that women, because of their parts or hormones in their body, like don't have the same
I mean, dangly bits clearly indicate power and knowledge and wisdom, right? Like when
Something
you
like
got
that.
shit dangling around between your legs, you clearly are a much more
I
intelligent
feel
person.
like it means you're weaker because you're more exposed. But that's a different discussion. What I wanted to wrap with here is kind of like what I go back to. I think I've gone back to this every single episode. Is just this idea of how toxic in out group culture is. This idea where people who are not like you are the other. Stop
Agreed.
fucking othering people. It's wrong.
Yeah.
We are all the same fucking race, and we're not race, the same fucking species. We don't need to have these internal divisions.
What is race, though, right? Like,
No,
Race is a construct.
I agree.
And I agree with you, Will. Like even in Mormonism, it's endemic in the sense, or inherent rather, in the sense that we often look at the world. There's these memes or thoughts that are propagated in Mormonism and taught top down, things like in the world but not of the world. You know, you don't want to be like those people.
Right.
There's all these like thoughts that are pervasive and really fuck up your ability to just embrace humanity for who we are.
Yep. Who else was taught that like you shouldn't marry somebody from another race because they were raised in a different sort of situation?
I don't remember that one, but tell me more.
I got that. No, I got that a lot.
It's literally still in the handbook.
Are you goddamn serious?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know the last time I was aware of
it is
after
in the handbook,
I left the
Belinda.
church.
It is.
Yeah.
Not the handbook, but the it's one of the
church handbook of instruction. Yes,
it's not the handbook, but I think it's in one of the instruction manuals for the youth where they strongly recommend.
But it is literally in the church handbook of instruction.
As they put it,
this
marrying
is
someone in your race. Yes.
For those not aware, either we're Mormon and don't know about it, or we're never Mormon. The LDS Church, the Mormon Church, has a handbook for all of its leadership that goes out to the local congregations, to those leaders, that instructs. And up until very recently, and maybe even up until now, that was a part of the thing. It's not forbidden. It used to be forbidden, but it is still strongly discouraged.
Death.
Strongly discouraged. That's a good way to
strongly
put it.
discouraged. And because of the difficulties it might create within
Right.
Do not
Saying
mix
like,
do not mix your seed with someone from another
But
race.
beyond that,
but
I think they like substantiated that. They were like, oh, like because you know you're raised in such different cultures. You know what?
Oh my
Fuck
God.
that. You are raised in a different culture no matter who you partner with. It doesn't fucking matter who you're with. You are raised in completely different ways. There's no doubt about that. Like, it doesn't matter who you're with. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting looking at Mormonism.
what does racial culture
now.
have to do with that?
So much of it seems to come from a place of fear instead of confidence.
I agree.
The reluctance to embrace history for what it is, the xenophobia, the homophobia. It's like, what are you guys afraid of? Because if you want to do what you want to fucking do, go do that. But stop trying to keep people from doing what they want to do. Live your weird reality and let other people live their quote unquote weird reality as well.
And you know what? It goes a whole lot more than just like Mormons and not Mormons, and like even America. Borders are made up. You have more in common with the average worker in Afghanistan than you do with any billionaire in America.
that's 100% true. Yeah.
We are so much more similar than we think, but we're so much more different because of like the way we're raised. Like that we need to stop thinking of things as being like us and them, except for billionaires. Fuck billionaires.
Yeah, and I don't at the risk of going on for another hour, you know, there's this idea, meme, myth, whatever, that immigrants take from society, but they don't contribute. And as an immigrant myself, I find that incredibly offensive.
Immigrants give more to our society than they could ever possibly get.
Yo, I work my ass off every day, like, and I pay my taxes and all that shit. And it's always frustrating to see white people say, well, we got to keep the illegals out, keep them out because they're the rapists, they're the murderers, and like fuck you, man.
It's simply the ruling class trying to divide the working class against itself for their own benefit.
Are there outliers? Certainly, but there's outliers.
Absolutely.
There's outliers in any ethnic group as you choose.
There's 7 billion people.
Sure, people do fucked up shit, but come on, man.
Guess what? Guess who does more of the fucked up shit? The millionaires and billionaires, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're starting to see that. And again, not to get into a conversation that should probably happen later, but like in today's society, when we have the ability to have a fucking high school student make a documentary with their iPhone, like more and more of this bullshit is coming out, whether it be rich or very famous people, like all the fucking things that are coming out right now, like the generalizations that are being made by the elite might just come from the fact that they realize like, oh wait, like my peer group is fucked up, so they must be fucked up too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
This is
This is not a white power symbol, by the way.
I was like, oh,
Just to be
okay.
clear.
Oh God.
This is
okay.
willpower.
Willpower.
Okay.
Willpower for the Will and Tonic. Well, thanks guys. This has been an awesome chat for sure. I know there's
We
lots
could
of
go on
topics here,
forever.
lots of meat. And we will continue. We've been putting ourselves out there. We're on iTunes now. That was an ordeal. I won't give you the backstory, but man,
I saw the email.
it was a lot of fucking work. It was a lot of fucking work. But we are on iTunes, so if you like listening to podcasts on Apple Music, we are there. We're on Spotify. We are on Twitter at ThirstPod, right, Will? ThirstPod on Twitter. Will's our Twitter guy.
Yeah.
We also have launched our Facebook presence, Thirst Impressions Podcast. Check us out. We're going to do some live stuff. We'll be interacting with you guys. So check us out. And most importantly, if you need recipes or just want to check out the website, that's thirstimpressions.show. That's where we're at.
Very nice.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time. If you have any comments, thoughts, feedback, whatever, hit us up in the comments on the YouTube video or just say, hey, we're easy to find. Take care.
And everybody's like, why would you say that? Like, oh
shit.
God.
He lost his shit on me. I was like, oh, can't you take a joke? I'm like, it's not funny.
It's not even a joke. It's just you
It's not. It's
Being an
literally-
saying
asshole,
it's a
like-
joke to say shitty stuff. Yeah. Please clip this and send it to Brett Kavanaugh. Brett, you're a dick.
Brett, dude.
Stop being a dick
Don't be a
right
dick,
now.
Brett.
Brett, you're a dick. What are you doing?